It's math time. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's do it. It's math time. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's do it. Greetings, learners. I hope you are ready for the lesson of the day today. So, before we go any further, we'll start by doing a small game. I'll give you 2 minutes to do this, and the instructions are as followed. You are required to form a word using the letters that I will give you. The first letter, write them down as I speak. The first letter is T, A, C, N, R, O, F, and I. I'll repeat the letters again. It's T, A, C, N, R, O, F, and I. I'm giving you 2 minutes to do this. So, learners, I hope you wrote the word of the day. And the word of the day is fraction. Now, what is fraction? We know that fraction is a part of a whole. That we know. Now, from the previous lesson, we did addition and subtraction of fractions with the same denominator. Do you still remember those ones, learners? All right. Now, when you are given a fraction like this, which is 3 over 7 plus 4 over 7, you know how to work this out. We did this last time, and we know that when we have the same denominators, we add the what? The numerators. Now, when we add the numerators, our denominator remains the same. So, when we add, we have 3 plus 4. What is 3 plus 4? It's 7. Now, we have our answer as 7 over 7. Now, 7 over 7 is the same as 1 whole. We know that. Okay, another example that we remember from the previous lesson is that when you are given 3 over 10 minus 2 over 10. Now, what do we see? We know that the denominators are all the same. Now, when we know that the denominators are the same, we know that we just subtract the numerators. What is our numerators? We have 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 is what? It's 1. And our denominator remains the same, which is 10 in this case. So, yes. So, now that we have passed or we have moved on from the last week's lesson. Now, today, the question is, what happens when the denominators are different and we have to add the fractions? Now, what happened? Think about it. Any ideas? If not, listen to me. So, when you have different denominators, there are important things to take into consideration, or there are important steps to do in order for you to get the right or correct method of getting the answer. So, yes. So, we have steps to do in order for us to add and subtract these fractions with different denominators. And I'm going to give you these steps, and then we're gonna work through some examples together. So the first step is you have to find what we call the least common denominator. I'll repeat it. It's called the least common denominator, which is called LCD. Now, in order for you to find the LCD, you have to write multiples of your denominators, those different denominators. You have to write multiples of those, and then you take the least which is common from both multiples. Now, that was step number 1. I'm repeating. Step number 1, you find the least common denominator, and then step number 2, you divide each denominator by the LCD. You divide each denominator by the LCD. After finding the answer of that division, you then multiply the answer with each of the numerator. You then multiply the answer with the numerator. Now, after you find that, the last step is that the answer that you get, you then add from each of the fraction and you divide it by the LCD, which is your least common denominator. Are we clear? Now, if you do not understand or you have a question, you can type it out or leave a comment, then I will help you out. Now, as we continue, here's an example of how to use the steps I've given you so far. Now, the first example, let's say you have 2 over 4 plus 3 over 6. Now, you can see, and it's evident that the denominators are different. Therefore, when the denominators are different, our mission is to make them the same, to make things easier for us. So, in the steps that I gave you, the first step said we should find the least common denominator. Now, how do you find the least common denominators? Like, right now, from 2 over 4, the denominator 4, you write the multiples of 4. When you write the multiples of 4, you have 4, 8, 12, 16. And then the multiples of 6, you have 6, 12, 18. So far, I can see that I have the least common denominator, or multiple. In this case, 12 is common here and 12 is also common here. Therefore, we have found our LCD, which is what? 12. Now, when you have your 12 as your LCD, you write your 12 down, and then you write a line. Now, with the LCD, you divide, step number 2, you then divide each denominator by the LCD. Now, 4 divided by 12, it's what? 4 divided by 12 is 3. Now, that we know that it's 3, you take the answer 3 and you multiply it with your numerator, and you find that 3 multiplied by 2 is what? It's 6. 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. And then you write your addition or your sign. Now, you do the same thing with the next fraction. You divide your denominator by your LCD. 6 divided by 12 is what? How many times does 6 goes into 12? It goes 2 times. Now, 2 times 3, which is your numerator, is 2 times 3 is 6. Now, you see, now, when you have done this step, you then come and add your numerators, and then when you add your numerators, you have 6 plus 6, which is 12, all over 12, which is a whole, which is 1. Are we clear on that one? All right. Yeah. Now, let's look at the second example, which is subtraction in this case. Now, say you have 3 over 5 minus, what can we use? Okay, 3 over 5 minus 1 over 2 minus a half. Now, when we use our steps, we know that we have to find the LCD first. How do we find the LCD? You can write the multiples of your denominators. Let's start with the multiples of 5. You have what? 5. You have what? 10, you have what? 15. Now let's look at the multiples of 2. You have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Now, so far we know that you can see and it's visible that which one is common between these multiples. You have a 10 there. You also have your 10 there. Therefore, your LCD is 10. Now you write your 10 over there. Now, the next step is to divide your denominator with your LCD. 5 divided by 10 will give you 2. Now, you then multiply it with your numerator. Now, 2, which is the answer that we got from 5 divided by 10, which is 2. Then 2 multiplied by your numerator, which is 3. 2 times 3 is what? It's 6. And then you write your subtraction sign. Now, after doing that, you can now go on with the steps again. What you do there, you also do it here. So your denominator now, we have 2 divided by 10. What is 2 divided by 10? It's 5. Yes, 5. Then you take your 5, you multiply it with your numerator, and this time your numerator is 1. 5 multiplied by 1 is 5. Now, you then subtract your numerators and you get your answer. When we subtract our numerators, we have 6 minus 5, which is, in this case, it's 1 all over 10. Now, this is your final answer, 1 all over 10. I hope you were with me, and I hope that you have written down the steps so that it can help you in this next activity that I will give you. Now, here's an activity. You have to add or subtract the given fractions below. Number 1, you have 2 over 3 plus 4 over 6. Number 2, you have 4 over 5 minus 2 over 3. Number 3, you have 7 over 8 plus 3 over 4. Number 4, you have 10 over 18 minus 7 over 9. Now, I'll give you some time for you to do this activity. Now that you're done with the activity, let us mark the activity. Okay, so you have the first one, you have 2 over 3 plus 4 over 6. Your LCD here, your LCD here is equals to 6. When you find your LCD, you will find that your LCD is 6. Now, when you have that 6, so you divide. 3 divided by 6 is what? It's 2. 2 times 2 is 4. You multiply with your numerator. And then you have 6 into 6 is 1. 1 times your numerator, which is 4, is what? 4. Therefore, your answer is what? 4 plus 4, which is 8 over 6. Are we okay? Now, when you go to the second one, you have your LCD will be 15. Now, you're gonna go write 15 over there. And then you continue to do the steps. 5 into 15 is what? 5 into 15 is 3. And then 3 times 4 is what? 3 times 4 is 12. And then 3 goes how many times into 15? 15, it goes 5 times. Now, 5 times 2 is what? 5 times 2 is 10, which is 12 minus 10 will give you 2 over 15. Yes, we're good. Number 3, you have 7 over 8, you have plus 3 over 4. What is your LCD? LCD, here it will be 8. And then when your LCD is 8, you have your 8 over there. Then we divide. 8 divided by 8 is what? It's 1. 1 multiplied by your numerator, which is 7, is what? It's 7. And then your sign over there. And then you continue. 4 into 8, it goes 2 times. 2 times your numerator, which is 3, which is 2 times 3. It's what? It's 6. Now, 7 plus 6 will give you, 7 plus 6 will give you a 13. 13 over 8. So now, on the screen, there will be a video for you to listen to, and then thank you.
All denominators must be the same. All denominators must be the same. To add or subtract fractions. To add or subtract fractions. All denominators must be the same. All denominators must be the same. To add or subtract fractions. To add or subtract fractions. Unlike fractions have different denominators, let's make them the same denominators. First, you write out all of their multiples, then you pick out least common multiples. Change all denominators to the least common multiple. And whatever you times the bottom number by, you have to times the top number by 2. All denominators must be the same. All denominators must be the same. To add or subtract fractions. To add or subtract fractions. All denominators must be the same. All denominators must be the same. To add or subtract fractions. To add or subtract fractions. Now take your new fractions with the same denominators. Then you add or subtract your numerators. Your denominator, you just move over because it stays the same. Then reduce to simplest form. All denominators must be the same. All denominators must be the same. To add or subtract fractions. To add or subtract fractions. All denominators must be the same. All denominators must be the same. To add or subtract fractions. To add or subtract fractions.